Leading change is on my mind. I unintentionally learned a lot about leading change after the 1992 presidential election. Let me paint the picture a bit more clearly. As he campaigned for president, then Governor Bill Clinton made a promise to change the rules for military service such that openly homosexual people would not be barred from enlisting or commissioning and serving in the armed forces of the United States. Privately, I did not support his promise. I was a young 05, a commander or lieutenant colonel at the time. You know, the mid-grade officer who thinks they know everything, but still has a lot to learn. I called my dad, a World War II and Korean War combat veteran, to talk with him about my concerns and my sense that the honorable thing was simply to resign. He understood, then said something I held on to for the remaining 15 years of my Navy career. "Fred," he said, "you swore to protect the Constitution. The Constitution gives the people the power to make and change policies because you protect their right to vote for whomever they agree with. The people need you to keep your head down, your mouth shut, and keep moving forward to protect the Constitution." I continued my career. Now, I had been stationed in the Pentagon before and went back for further assignments later. What I learned by word of mouth was that President Clinton and his Secretary of Defense asked the Admirals and Generals for advice on how to move forward with this important campaign promise. The Admirals and Generals recommended what we now know as don't ask, don't tell. Their recommendation was to make an incremental change that would allow the President and the people who elected him to succeed and avoid potential negative impacts to morale and readiness. The Admirals and Generals owned that policy change. I concluded that President Clinton had led that change in a spectacularly effective way because he allowed his leadership team to own the change that the organization could support. For the remainder of my Navy career, don't ask, don't tell was the law of the land as far as sailors and I were concerned. We may not have agreed with the change, but the people had directed the change by the votes they cast. It does not get more democratic than that. The uniformed military lined up and saluted and obeyed the orders of the civilians elected to lead them. Now, I have no idea how the social changes made in the Obama and Biden administrations were executed. I don't know if those presidents were as savvy a leader as President Clinton was in 1993. But in the recent meeting with the Admirals and Generals, we all watched live or in recordings. I did not see President Trump or Secretary of War Hegseth show any of the leadership savvy President Clinton and his SecDef showed in 1993. What I saw was my way or the highway leadership, kind of like I had considered it as an 05 before the colonel, my dad, slapped me upside my head. I saw a room full of flag and general officers, some who may agree and some who may disagree with the changes the voters directed in the 2024 election. treated like a major would treat a raw recruit. They will follow orders. This is not a tough set of changes to make. But fewer of them than needed will own the orders the way the leadership in 1993 owned those orders for change. Unfortunately, every person in that room knew this was coming. This President and Secretary of War have a reputation for showboating. That meeting wasn't to lead change. It was a mine is bigger show. And the intended audience was nowhere near Quantico. The intended audience, the MAGA hardcore enablers, want us to believe that my way or the highway and chainsaws is what leadership is. That and how many half-rep gooseneck pull-ups you can do in a minute. That's a shame.